Achad lokas Aaron and Saneros, but Aaron lighting the candles, who Beshem and Zayis Kasis Dafka, specifically with crushed olives, it could eat a b'mishnah kosesh v'nosin sochasal chulo, like it says that you should crush them and place them in the basket and so forth. Harishon the menorah, the first oil that you crush is pure for the menorah. Ashar the menachos, and the rest is for the menachos. And the concept is that the olive has bitterness, like the dove by Noach said, let my sustenance be bitter like an olive in the hands of Hashem, and not sweet in the hands of man. And further it says in the Gemara that the olive can make you forget your studies of 70 years, because the concept of the bitterness of the olive is from the world of klipos, the world of forgetfulness. Haga from the Tzemach Tzedek, about the olives being bitter from the world of klipos and so forth. And that's why it says that his legs will stand on that day on the Mount of Olives. And our sages said about this on the verse that Edom would not allow us to go through their land, even just to pass through with our legs. That means to say that when will we be able to go through the land? Until the day will come of the trampling of the foot. Al Harazesim, and that on the Mount of Olives, and that the concept of the crushing of olives on the Mount of Olives, that his legs are standing on Harazesim. That's the Yom Durichas Regel. So it's his legs standing on the Mount of Zesim is compared to someone who's crushing the olives. So too in Midrash Rabbah Parshas Bo, that he stands on Harazesim, it refers to the day of judgment. And this is what he says, but in the time to come he's going to stand and judge the world by standing. So like it says that on that day his legs are going to stand. So the concept of the bitterness of the olives and the judgment go together. Therefore it says in the pasuk, what will I do when Hashem stands? And why will Hashem stand? Because of the plight and the crying out of the impoverished and so forth. Look over there. And we can also explain this according to what our sages said. That Netzach refers to the building of Yerushalayim. Like it says in another Mamer, and that's why it says that his legs are going to stand on that day, because his legs, the legs correspond with Netzach and Hod, and Yerushalayim is the concept of Netzach, and so the Yerushalayim is right by Harazesim. So when he's standing on the Harazesim, means to say that the Netzach, with the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, is going to stand by the Harazesim. Like it says in Emek HaMelech, the Shar Olam Abriya, Ki Netzach veHod nikra Mari deraglin chulu vaz yotzim chulu. The Netzach and Hod refers to masters of the legs, and then you go out and so forth. Kamatzvos umachnos v'chayelos adin mispar, a number of soldiers and camps without number, and hosts without number. So v'kal zeu al harazesim, and so that's to say that all the legs of the armies, that's the concept of Netzach and Hod. or so it's a concept of perhaps the malachim that correspond with those levels. And all of this is on the Mount of the Olives. That's in order to bend the other side, to purify the klipos nogav. Hatov, and through this it comes out the good oil. And like our sages said, that the oil for the luminary, that refers to Mashiach. So when you crush the olives, which is the bitterness of Edom, of the klipos, and the olam hashikra, you get out the oil, which is for the menorah. And the luminary, we said the oil for the luminary, so that's Mashiach, the time to come. Like it says, get up, stand up and shine, because your light has come. So we have a concept of standing and the light coming together. Ad Kanaga, that's the end of the Haga'os from the Tzemach Tzedek. Back to the Mamer. V'hainu inyan haguf v'nefesh habahamis shebenoga. And that is to say, what is the bitterness of the olive? The world that makes you forget. And the klipos, that's the body and the animal soul. Sheminoga, that comes from the klipos noga. Mishcha de chavia, and the skin of the snake. V'kos shimoso hachimotzi mimenu shemen, that we crush it until we get the oil out. Hainu b'chinas chachma. And what's the oil? That's the concept of wisdom. Vayim berabos rish Parshas Vata Tezaveh. And look at the Medrash Rabbah about this. Like our sages said, that just like the oil makes you forget your studies of 70 years, so too the oil of the olive brings back the memory of the studies of the 70 years. And what's this concept of the 70 years? That's the why 70 years specifically, because we're talking about the klipos, and that comes from the 7 lower levels that fell in the breaking of the vessels, the midos. In each one of them is included of 10. And this refers to the 7 kings of Tohu that died. And that's why this bitter olive that makes you forget for your 70 years of studies. And the olive oil, that's the concept of what purifies the klipos, what elevates the sparks from the shviras hakelim of the 7 malachim. So that's bechinas v'achachma tichya, that the chachma, the oil, enlivens yamusu v'lo b'chachma, that you can have the misa of the Zayin Malachim, but not with Chachma, that Chachma purifies and elevates the sparks of the Shviras HaKelim. L'chein hu machzir talmudo shalayin shana. That's why olive oil can bring back your studies that you learn for 70 years, by purifying Chachma of Tohu, that's enclosed in the 7 lower levels that fell. And look, in a similar idea in what it explains in Chassidus about somebody who says Amen Yesh Mirabah with all their strength. They're called. They're able to rip up a decree that was for 70 years. It's a similar idea. Torah, Parshas Chukas, and look at the Mamer there. Because Chachma is the brain of remembering. That's the level of remembering. Parshas Kodesh. Shemos is bechachma zikaron b'nei chulu, like Parshas Kodesh in the Tefillin. That's the parsha that corresponds with Chachma, just like Vayaki V'yacha corresponds with Bina, and Shema V'haya correspond with Chesed and Gvura, and so forth. So the Kodesh refers to Chachma, and it says in that Parsha that it should be remembering before your eyes. So you have Kodesh and Zikaron together. So Chachma and remembering correspond to each other. And so what's the concept then of this crushing of the olives? So it's a concept of bending the other side, to the concept of to the remnant of his inheritance of his people. In the Voda, this is the concept of a person placing themselves lowly like the dregs and in humility. That's the concept of subjugating, of bending all of your other desires that are for other things, not for Hashem. That the person should not have any other desire and will for themselves, to have pleasure and enjoy the pleasures of people, of the sons of man in this world. A person should not run after them at all, because when a person places themselves like the dregs, mutaros, and something extra, ba'olam, as if in the world, as if they don't truly belong, and so forth. As that if they have no purpose in this world at all, they're not needed here. So if so, what do they have to do with this world? Haga, and now Haga from the Tzemach Tzedek. Look what it says about this in the Mamorim, about Yisrael Simei Tshuva B'divar Hamas Chilahavin Perush HaPasuk Mikel Kamocha Chulu, when it explains with a verse to understand what it says, who is like you, in the midos of Zah, the Yud Gimel midos Lesheris Nachalas Chulu, to the remnant of his inheritance and so forth. Ayin Sham, look over there, that it brings the same idea. We can say that through this crushing and subjugating of oneself to the drags, to have this humility, we can say that through this you have the crushing of the olives to bring the oil. You have this same concept that we brought before of Duraglav, that his legs will stand the Mount of Olives, Shem Amshachas Netzach Vodi line, which is drawing down the supernal Netzachod, the supernal legs, so to speak. That is through conquering yourself, to bend the other side, and to be humble and crushed. To this you draw down from above the Netzachod, the supernal Netzachod, to crush the Klippas Noga that's in you. So when you do it to yourself, so you get an arousal from above as well in the same vein. And that's what it means by the giving of the Torah, that we stuck ourselves by your legs. That is to say, a similar concept of the Netzach of above coming into us. Tuku, the toch raglecha, inside of the legs. And this is also the concept of what we say in the Alanisim, that you stood for them in the time of their plight. That this is the concept of Mesiras Nefesh by Chanukah. That's also the concept of the shining of the oil through their Mesiras Nefesh. You have the concept of the standing for them, of the Netzachod, of the crushing of the olives and so forth. That's the end of the Haga'os. Back to the Mamer. Therefore, a person should not desire not this world and not the world to come. Like it says, who do I have in the heavens and so forth, that you don't even want the heavens. So it's like it says that the remnant of Yaakov will be Bagoyim Chulu. That so the remnant of Yaakov will be in the nations. And afterwards it says, lift up your hands on your enemies, and all your enemies will be cut off. shebebechinas sher is Yaakov. So the first part of the pasuk is the remnant of Yaakov. Like we said, that's the concept of making yourself shemasim atzmo keshirayim, that you make yourself humble like the drags. Machris v'yarim yado al tzarav, so that makes it so that Hashem cuts off your enemies. V'bechinas romos kel begronam, with the concept of the praises of Hashem in your throats. Lios cherav pipios biadam, to have a double-edged sword in your hands. That is to say, with the praising of Hashem, so you all have the cutting off of your enemies, and similarly when you have the humility, Hashem also cuts off the enemies. Biskalus Ramus or Ein Sof al Nafsho, when you have a revelation of the exaltedness of the infinite light upon your soul, which is not the case if a person is puffs themselves up into an existence in haughtiness. Our sages said, I cannot dwell together with you. And the infinite light may be blessed only dwells and is revealed in someone who is nullified. And that's the concept of wisdom, which is the concept of oil that happens through the crushing of the olive, that the oil is what's drawn after the wick, and so all of the oil is burned by the light that's holding on to the wick, that nothing remains of it. Meaning to say that the main concept is that the wick gets burned up and the oil is what's burning. So the Mash'enkin mina apsila not nishar ksas efer, meaning so it's the oil gets completely burnt up, but the wick, a little ashes remains of the wick, but the oil itself gets completely burnt up. That's the concept of Chachma. So this is one of the ways we see how Chachma is batal and nothing for itself. The fact that nothing remains of it after it gets burnt up, which is not the case with the physical body that's drawing down this light, and then it has a certain coarseness to it that remains, it does not get completely nullified. So to this concept of wisdom is the concept of nullification that's completely nullified, included inside the light. Haner shel mitzvah zu, that inside the mitzvah liyos gilu oin so baruch hu mamish al nafsho, to have a revelation of the infinite may be blessed on your soul. By dezeh miskayim benafsho oin so baruch hu nimshach min mitzvah, and to this is fulfilled in your soul the infinite light that's drawn from the mitzvah that you do. Mash'en kim below bechinas shemen, which is not the case if you don't have oil. Hare'ein haner miskayim ala psila. So the candle does not stay on the wick levada alone, eladolek is maher v'kala keregachulu, but rather it lights quickly and the wick goes out. Haga. So another Haga from the Tzemach Tzedek, Kitzer, this is a Kitzer. Shahadlak asa Aaron hu b'shem and zayis kasis, that the lighting of the candle for Aaron is with olive oil that's crushed, zayis miklipas noga mish chadechavia, that the olive oil is crushed. This is the olive is from the klipas noga, which corresponds with the snake skin of the body, marorim kazayas, which is bitter like the olive vikasis. The concept of crushed liyos iskafia ideshimasi matzum kishirayim, to have a bending of the sitra achra. So crushing the olive is to get rid of this bitterness by bending the other side, by placing yourself like the dregs in humility, that this refers to subjugating the desires in the other side, Yaakov, to have the concept of the remnant of Yaakov, and to this you also have that all your enemies will be cut off. And from this you'll have drawn down the concept of wisdom, which is nullification. And to this you'll have the ständigkeit, you'll have the continuance and the constancy of the light of the candle of the mitzvah, which is elevating and making good the candles, like you brought the different concepts in elevating. So the first, the yaroch, is the concept of setting it up, and then you have the elevation and the from below to above, and you have the above to below, which is the hala and the hatava of the candles. And the concept of that of crushing the olives is the concept of standing upon the mount of the olives. And we talked about the concept of netzach from above. Is nitzcham like the concept of bigadecha kodorech begats. Why are your clothing dirty? So it says vayez nitzcham al begadai, that by my crushing. That in that context it's one of grapes, but it says vayez nitzcham, that it's squirted there netzach, meaning to say that we had a concept of netzach, overcoming the bitterness by the crushing, by the dricha. And this is drawn through the netzach, and meaning you conquering yourself and bending of the person. So this draws down the netzach up above, which is also the concept of the binyan Yerushalayim, which is going to be la'asid lavo, through conquering Edom and trampling Edom, going into the land, and that's also one of Amdu Ragla B'yomahu al Harazesim. And the elevation of Edom is with the concept of elevating the sparks of the Zayim Malachim of Edom, Shenaflu B'Shviras HaKelim.